So it's saying preparing to live stream. Done redirecting. So I see myself. Do you see live on YouTube?
I do.
Right. So we are finally live. Hooray. So thank you again, Jonh, for being here. I know it's like 7 a.m. where you are. It's 10 a.m. where I am. I do appreciate it. So many people from the West Coast tell me that this is too early, but you are here with me. So I definitely appreciate that. So I want to talk to you about what you do with virtual meetings and team building and how you got into events. Let's start with that. How did you get into events?
How did I get into events? Well, this is my 25th year of my company, Erica. Did you know that the stats are that only 4% of the companies in America make it to 10 years or more? So imagine how many only make it to 25. So this is my 25th year. I always had this saying, Erica, was I always knew I was supposed to do something. I just don't know what it is. And I was working at Microsoft at the time. And I went through a whole number of programs. I had a coach come back to me and he says, hey, give me a weekend. I'll tell you exactly what it is. So I flew to Huntington Beach. And in 48 hours, I had what I affectionately call the Jerry Maguire experience, where I wrote the entire business plan for this company in 48 hours and sent out summaries to about 65 family and friends. And it took me about 2.5 years to leave Microsoft. And that's how I got into team building, which in team building, of course, is bought by a lot of meeting planners. And that's how I got into the meetings business.
Okay. So were you scared to make that leap to leave Microsoft and to go into your own business?
Well, Erica's scared. I mean, come on. I had jumped out of airplanes. I have climbed Denali, 20,320 feet. And let me tell you that starting my company is the scariest thing I've ever done, way beyond those other two things I just told you about.
Yeah, having your own business can be a little scary. Do you have any tips for folks to get over it?
My coach was a really great, and like it took 2.5 years to do so. And one time I really thought about anyone who's going to start a company. Number one, you kind of get called, right? Erica, do you know what I mean? Like you get called, like you need to do something, right? That's what I
Yep.
call the calling. And then during the process of the calling, you will get tested, right? Multiple times by like, you need to go back, right? Go back to your old life, go back to the old you, right? Stay where you are. And so like I got tested by, I think getting offered another job in training at Microsoft, and I had already had a trip with my family planned, so I was asking for an extended leave, even without pay. I just wanted extended leave so I could finish this trip that I committed to with my family. And this vice president at the time just said no. Right, we can't do that. And I finally took that as the sign, like going, I have to make a decision here one way. How bad do I really want this? And so at that moment, it was the moment I decided I'm going to quit. So I quit Microsoft, went on this trip with my family, then started this company. And so I think that's the one thing. My advice for those who decide to be an entrepreneur, you will be tested, right? And at those moments, you will decide whether or not you really want to be an entrepreneur or you want to like work for somebody else.
Like, wow. I mean, I understand they have a company to run, but if they tell you no, what else are they going to do? They will just have to take time and find someone else and then train them when they could have just gave you just a little bit more time.
Yeah, it would have not even cost them anything, right? It was, and this guy who's what I felt was one of the biggest rule breakers at Microsoft, right? At Microsoft, they give one of the beliefs, which is it's better to ask for forgiveness, right, than for permission, because you'll get it done, right? And he gave me the excuse, which was if I do it for you, I have to do it for everyone. And I was really like, I was disappointed in that moment that he would take that type of logic or with me and for somebody who's given exceptions to almost everything else right at work. And so I don't know, I just took it as that was my sign to be done with that place. And the other thing I realized, my coach helped me realize, is that it was more painful to stay in my existing job than to do my new job, as opposed to the other way, which is I'm more fearful of doing my new thing than holding on to the security of my old thing. And that's a transition that you will also make, all right, as you get closer and closer to what you want to do.
What's the best part about having your own business?
Oh, hopefully you'll love this belief, Erica. The belief to me is that Entrepreneurship is the journey to authenticity, right? Entrepreneurship is the journey to authenticity. What do I mean by that? I mean that being an entrepreneur lets you be exactly who you think you want to be. And all you have to do then is get who you think you want to be to align with the world's pocketbook. So someone will pay you for you to be exactly who you want to be. Um, I've gotten to do all sorts of things that I would not be able to do if I worked for somebody else. Right. And those things I appreciate. And the person who I am, sitting in front of you today would have been radically different if I spent 25 more years back at Microsoft. Um, and so yeah, I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the freedom. One year I was a member of Entrepreneurs Organization. So Erica, do you know who Entrepreneurs Organization is?
I don't think so.
It's kind of like Young Presidents Organization or YPO. It's all business owners, right? So
Mhm.
you get to hang out with other business owners. It's really useful too for business owners. You'll find out that sometimes you'll have a hard time talking to other people because you don't have the same problems, right, as people who own the company. For instance, one of the members had to fire his dad.
Oh.
Right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes entrepreneurship makes you do things and you can't talk to anybody else except another business owner who would say like, "Oh, I either feel for you or I did it. I did that too." Um, and so anyway, so one year in entrepreneurs organization, I told somebody, I said I took 12 weeks of vacation off, right? And most of the
Okay.
entrepreneurs are like, interested in like how did you double your revenue, how did you double your net profit, right? But I said I took 12 weeks of vacation off this year, and they all came back around and they said, how did you do that? And that was the freedom. I was actually at the point where I was, taking care of all three of my kids, and I took those 12 weeks off, and spent most of them with them, and that's also the freedom that you have in a company. If you run it correctly, you can do those kinds of things, and that freedom is something that I really appreciate.
Now I'm wondering what would I do with 12 weeks off?
Okay, so Erica, what would you do with those 12 weeks off? What's one thing that you might do with 12 weeks off?
I have no idea. I have all these ideas and I feel like they all need to be executed on.
And that's the common plight of an entrepreneur, right? But the self care is super important. Your life goals are important, right? Your family is important. So any one of those things in there, that anything that's like not work, would probably fit inside those 12 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. I'm still working on trying to convince my 7-year-old that he needs to write letters to his cousins so it will help him with his written English. But
Oh,
yeah, so we're still arguing about it. But so far he has written one letter.
well, then you'll find out that your persistence of your 7-year-old, and the I guess the joke would be maybe that would take all 12 weeks.
We are definitely the same person. There's no way that we're not related. So I would definitely argue with my mom too. So the name of your company is Geoteam, I think. Is that right?
Well, geo teaming, and right now, actually, the company is mainly going under this piece here, which is engaging virtual meetings. So I do have a short story too. That I've got the rest of my last 2 years history in 3 minutes, if you're interested, Erica.
Sorry about this. I am trying to turn on my desktop instead of using my phone.
That's
And
right. You'll
it's
have to
giving me
co-host your desktop and then leave your phone.
yeah, okay.
Good
So I'm
credit.
gonna turn this off on my phone. Hopefully.
There's the Erica I know and see.
Oh, it won't let me turn off my phone. Ah.
You got to host somebody. Oh, you're good. It worked. Wait. And now she can unmute. Where's my I have stuff for this.
I did it. I did it.
I was going to share with you. This is like this was the most used sign in 2020.
I believe it. Tech can be my best friend, or it just gives me the most frustration. I just want it to work when I want it to work. I want it to do it as I say when I push the button for it to do so.
Oh, I know. I tell people it's like cars, right? Like you give a key, two pedals, and a wheel to people, right? And then they expect it to work. And that's sometimes how people view their computers, despite how much technology is under the hood and on the wheels, on the ground, etc.
Yeah. It's like my car is 15 years old. I gave them so much money for it, and I expect it to work. I know most people trade them in after 5 years. It was like, no car payments? Yes, sign me up for that.
I got a car, a Toyota Land Cruiser that just crossed over 250,000 miles, Erica.
Oh, that's a
Right?
lot. I can't even tell
So
you how many miles mine has. I just know it still works, and I'm
So
happy about
more
that.
statistics. Only 1% of cars get it past 100,000 miles. Of those 1%, 17% of them are Toyota Land Cruisers that make it to 100,000 or more.
Wow. I'm probably past that. I have a Mitsubishi Eclipse.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it has it doesn't have all of its original parts. If something breaks, I just replace it because I don't want another car payment.
Here you go.
So tell me about what was it that got you into hosting events for corporations?
Yeah, so you asked me about geo-teaming, right? And right, the company here is actually called Engaging Virtual Meetings. So let me give you my last 2 years in 3 minutes. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, so I used to do team building, right? This, as I said, how I got into the business, all right? Doing teams based on geocaching, a high-tech scavenger hunt. But of course, this little thing came around and screwed up the whole event game, right? So I had 15 canceled events in March of 2020. But here's like you go backwards in your history and say, what do I have to lean on? I was on this, right? The Prodigy. This was a meeting location 35 years ago, virtual. Its highlight was that it was the first graphical based interface at a time when modems used to make noise. So I've been online for 35 years. In addition to that, I actually wrote this book in 2011, 50 Digital Team Building Games. So for years, I've been trying to tell people that we could meet online, do meaningful work, save the travel and expenses, and have dinner with your kids at the end of the night. And everyone said, John, that is a great idea, but right here's a bunch of money and you need to fly to Orlando, right? And so anyways, I'm sitting in my office with nothing to do and I put a class up called Virtual Team Building. All right, I was just saying I don't make vaccines, but I think I can make your virtual meeting better. And 5,000 people took the class. And
Great.
so my publisher called me back and said, "Hey, John, do you want to write your second book?" And I said, "Sure, let's do that." I wrote my second book in 9 weeks. In 9 weeks, so that we could rush. By the way, I love telling this part of the joke now too. My publisher didn't know what was going to happen with coronavirus, like how soon it would end. So we rushed the process, right, to get the book out as fast as possible. Which sounds very funny now that it's 2022 and this pandemic is still kind of raging. The book came out number one October 2020 and the number one Amazon hot new release. And now I spend the majority of my time um, designing and producing, as well as speaking at and emceeing virtual meetings. So here's some people I've worked with: Jay Bhattasinga, the author of Walking Dead. This is Patrick Lencioni, Five Dysfunctions of a Teen, sold 6 million books. This is Elizabeth Gilbert, right? She wrote 16 million books, had Julia Roberts play her in a movie, the book Eat, Pray, Love. And of course, our good friend Damon John, who sold $1 billion in Fubu. So now, Eric, I can do this best part, right? You speak at virtual meetings, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to give you my number one tip for virtual meetings. Are you ready?
Yes.
Here we go. Right, the tip is simple. It's just stand up, right? It's like, you know, the best tip is that the funny part is that all those famous people actually forgot that they were all seated for their programs. You know, one of the advantages you can have is to stand up, right? And so the physiology for standing up while you're presenting will give you all these advantages. Even if people only see this much of you, you'll feel different, and if you feel different, they'll feel different. You can put boxes under your computer, you can get a fancy lifter desk, or you can do this part. So now, Eric, I can now show you what I worked on over the last 2 years. Oh, this. So I made a green screen, which is big enough, right, so that I can stand in it. So this is what I see, and this is what you see up here. But more importantly is this. This is my setup. So this is what I'm seeing right here. Like I've actually got up to 16 screens available to me when I'm working. And so that's one of the things that I developed over the last 24 months. So
That's cool. It's like a Zoomzilla setup.
yeah, it's like it's a miniature home-based Zoomzilla setup. Oh yeah, you've seen what is it? I think I have a version of Tony Robbins' studio here, like this, right?
Yeah.
This is Zoomzilla. This is like, the ability to see 20,000 people in a virtual meeting face to face.
It's like, wow.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's what I've been up to.
So I hosted 3 events back to back, and I sat in my chair the whole time. When I was at the virtual event, it was like 10 to 12 hours per day for 3 days.
Yeah.
But when I hosted, I produced this event by myself, I sat there the whole time, and I totally hurt my tailbone, and I needed help. And my whole time doing telemarketing, I was always told to stand up. And I've been sitting in this chair for all this time, and I didn't realize that I could hurt my tailbone doing this. So yeah, I do believe in standing up, even though I did come back to my chair after I felt better. It's like I kind of learned a lesson. I should know better.
It's I was trying to set up a lifter desk. I have a lifter desk in this setup too, and I tried to use those gas lifter desks from Amazon. It's got gas assist, right? So
Yeah.
I was trying to set up this new 6 monitor setup. So I set it all up, right, and then I tried to lift it. This is what happened. Right. So let me just tell you, 6 monitors exceeds the weight capacity of those gas lifter desks. I could not even move that thing. And so I had to panic buy a mechanical desk. Right. And it turns out like I got a $1,500 desk for $300.
Cool.
Yeah. So again, if you're okay with used, which is like I'm totally like I went on Facebook Marketplace, found a table for $300, paid it cash. It turns out it was 6 minutes from my house. Brought it in my house on a Sunday to finish up this setup so that I could actually start working on a Monday. So it's possible.
Nice.
No matter what budget you have, if you're resourceful enough, you can do it.
I believe that. I think Damon John wrote a book about that, The Power of Being Broke. Yep.
To me, sometimes too, the power of being an entrepreneur is the power to be frugal, right? Because everything is around the dollar. So even if you have a whole bunch of cash, it's fiscally responsible as a business owner to be, cash savvy, right? Be cash effective. Of course, you got to be time effective too, because your time starts to be worth a lot. So sometimes it's not worth, saving $1 by burning 2 hours of your time. But still, I still think there are some very crafty things that you can do as an entrepreneur. Because in the end, if your client doesn't know, it's fine. If you still deliver the high quality of service or things that you're doing, that's fine. If it starts to show up on your image, then that's different, right? Like if your car doesn't take you to your work on time, right? That's definitely going to show up on your personal brand.
I definitely believe that. So could you tell us about your first virtual meeting? I know you showed us the graphic that you've used.
Jeez.
What was that about? Or what, I can't say it now. What was the feeling of your first virtual meeting?
Well, if you go back to Prodigy, right? It turns out my brother and my brother was the only family member who was on Prodigy. Now remember, this is 35 years ago, and we just started trading email. Like email was actually kind of new back then, right? You still had to write an old school letter like your son wrote, right, to mail it. And so now we're virtually, and so we could actually have these interchanges. Like if we were both online, right, you can go back and like send something and get a reply in just a few minutes and like actually have a conversation. And I thought that was the moment that you realize that you can kind of bridge, space and time. He was 6 hours away. I was in Santa Barbara and he was in San Francisco at the time, and we actually started to develop, even more relationship as brother to brother. I think my other one that I thought was great too is that I emailed. I was at UC Santa Barbara, and I emailed my professor about a question about his class, and he instantly replied. And if you know anything about like college, at least at the time too, like you have a hard time to get access to professors, right? And it's slow and you got to wait and, all these other things. But he was fast on email. It turned out he used to work at IBM and he was teaching cryptography at the time. And so he replied instantly. That was the other moment when I realized not only does it close space and time, but it gives you access. right? And I
Like
think
that.
something I think both you and I know as POC people of color, right? Access is important. It was like having a seat at the table, and so I now had like the same as or sometimes better access than other people who didn't know to email him directly. And again, to me, that was just another realization.
I like that. Tech will give you access to other people,
Yeah.
your time, because sometimes getting other people's time is really hard.
Yeah, especially when they're either important people or whatever you want to call it. Right? Yeah, just like yeah, they're hard to get to. But I think email made them accessible.
Okay. So, have you ever went back to IBM as far as working in your new job, your own business? Have they ever asked you to come back and do team building with them? Because that would be cool.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So I worked at Microsoft, and during my time at Microsoft, I shipped 10 products and I got 2 US patents when I was there. Right. So actually, if you look inside this office here, this right here, that's a US patent. That's an award you get when you get it. Um, and so I thought it would immediately that they would be my number one client. And let me tell you, it took 3 years. And that's a real long 3 years. Like when you like, I quit, right? And you think your friends would call you back. And let me just tell you, the Microsoft environment is like, if you're not in it, then, you're out, right?
Oh,
And so I had to wait. I like all these people I'd call. They're like, nah, it doesn't align with our stuff right now. It doesn't matter how close of friends they were. It's just like, you realize what it takes for a company to spend money on you. Again, it has to align with their goals. They have to want it. And so it took about 3 years to get that. So I got other clients. I think Adobe, the software company, was actually one of my very first clients who needed a team building event. And we did a geocaching style event here. It was actually my first geocaching event here in Seattle. And then 3 or 4 years later, right, Microsoft started coming back. Now, the best part too, Erica, is I've been using Salesforce since like 1999 or whatever. And I have all the historical sales data for my company. Microsoft is still historically the number one sales company, the number one company I've sold to over the course of the years. And even last year, well, I guess go back to 2020. In April of 2020, the HR and finance the company, the people that did all the compensation for all the people at Microsoft, had a conference that was scheduled to go in person, needed to go virtual, and contacted me. And I actually was the lead designer and producer for that entire conference. It ran 24/7. So it had a Redmond component and then an Asia component and then an EMEA, right, Europe component. And so we would record live in Redmond, do all these pieces, send it to Asia, and Asia would play it back, but with a live crew. So there was a live Asia crew, right? So they would play it back and run all the chat and everything else like that. And then they shipped it to Europe, who would take their notes and then further improve it and then play it again. And they were blown away by how engaging a virtual, program could be.
I
And
like that.
yeah, and so that was one of the first virtual programs that I worked on, especially for Microsoft.
Okay. May I ask how many team members would you need to produce a virtual event for a company?
Well, that's the great part. I mean, in some places, like that conference, it was like technically one as a producer, and there was still a team. There was me, and there was a woman, Charva Brown, who's in charge, and then another woman who was already working on the product. She was in charge of kind of the graphics and some of the logistics. So the three of us were really the core team, right? But a conference like Training Magazine, which I feel like is then my biggest and best conference, because in Training Magazine's conference, they allowed me to do everything I think I wanted to do in terms of engagement. So in that conference, there was myself as the lead producer. There were 10 breakout room producers, because there were up to 6 to 8 breakouts happening at the same time over the course of 5 days. It was 150 sessions. And by the time we were done, we trained 200 people who were
Wow.
either producers, speakers, or what we called ambassadors. Ambassadors were people there who were, got behind the scenes, got access, and were able to help any attendee. And those 200 people worked together to make it feel engaging for 1,200 attendees. And it turned out that it was the number one conference in the training industry, and it was the only 100% a live conference in the training industry. Every other training organization or association chose to use pre-recorded video at least once during their program. And these people were committed not to do that, right? And I said so too. I said, you know what? If you want to make it engaging, you got to make it live. I said, even though we'll have mistakes or other things around that, that's what will help people realize that this is happening right now and not that it's some pre-recorded material that
Yeah.
you're watching that nobody is here with. So
That's my favorite thing about live events is that you do get the engagement. I did talk to a few people who said there is not much engagement in a virtual event. You have to be in person for that. And I'm like, are you sure? Because I don't think it works like that. Like, what kind of events have they been hosting? But I'm thinking they've just been trying to keep their same old office meeting and try to put that on Zoom and call it a virtual event. I'm like, that's not how virtual events work. Or they have a webinar and they want to call it an event.
I'm actually, yeah, we ran the whole conference in 100% meeting and not webinar. So speakers had the opportunity to turn on gallery and see everybody. And they did. And then react to them. Like saying, hey, you know, we could see that. Hey, Erica, I love the talk virtual background, right? That you're shaking your head. Yes. Well, you know, to the point I just made. So they were able to do that. And I just, yeah, I think that's super important. You know, in one other conference that I'm doing, I was the virtual MC to a hybrid. And we talk about how valuable it can be. So to me, chat is the second most engaging tool on virtual, right? The first one is this.
Yeah.
You turn on a camera and audio, you talk, right? People understand. But the second one is chat. And so as a virtual MC, I got a chance to MC a government social media conference. It was so big that Meta, right, TikTok, LinkedIn were all there as keynote speakers. And what happened is that the virtual audience was also so skilled that the chat in the virtual audience was almost as valuable, if not more valuable, than what the speaker was saying, because it was coming from someone who was just like you.
Yeah.
Right? They all know social media. They're doing it day to day, and they were sharing their best tips inside of the virtual. And again, people said, I think you know they would save the chat, and they also get a copy of the chat. We saved it to the website, but they said the chat sometimes was as or more valuable than what you got in person.
There's so much stuff you could do with the chat and the transcript from an event. Like, if you put those two together, imagine the ebooks or the infographics or the social posts you could make from just the text. It's
The
exciting.
transcript, so Zoom's specifically's transcript, I think, is one of the most powerful things. So I have an account right now that has unlimited cloud space. So what I offer my clients is that I give them a link to a video and it has a searchable transcript. So for instance, you could watch this interview, right? Look for the words engagement. It will take you the first time either you or I said engagement, and you can keep searching like a document. It will fast forward you through the video. Because, you know, to me, one of the things in the video is, well, I remember hearing that, but I want that one thing. What was that one thing? And so now you
Yeah.
can search for it, right? And so yeah, searchable transcripts, I think if people learn how to use it, will be the next most powerful feature about having a pre-recorded program.
I like that, and I haven't even thought about it. I've been thinking about Searchy, but now that I know about this might be a better alternative.
It's built in. Just turn on transcripts in Zoom, right? Yeah, there's a couple switches you got to turn on, and then in the recording in the cloud, it's all there and says show Zoom and the chat and the transcript in one piece, and that's it.
How do you feel about the cloud recording? Because I tell everyone to record locally. You do both?
I do both now, and I understand. I did locally for over a year, and that's because I didn't have an unlimited Zoom cloud space. So my account, for instance, is through National Speakers Association. So if you can get a membership, you can get this account. And by the way, I think I saved like $4 or $5 grand a year because I think they're
That's
going to
great.
turn this feature off solely because of me, Erica, because they'll find out how much space I'm using. I've probably got like 3 terabyte up now in their cloud. Just don't tell them, right? So, so yeah, so the cloud, I believe, is better in these ways now, assuming you have unlimited space. Because the problem is that if you had limited space, which I did, I bought like 100 gig for a while. I'd do an event, I'd do some stuff, right? And then I'd have to download it all anyways, and then wipe it off and keep it clean because it's only so big. But with unlimited space, one, you leave it there forever. 2, I find like the number of times I use the video is kind of only some, right? So I just rather just leave it there for archive. 3, as soon as Zoom renders it, I can send a link to my client who can also download it. So I skip like a download and an upload, and that's a lot, right? That can turn it into either a lot of time or a lot of bandwidth that you might be having to pay for. And then they get those features of having all of it in one, the chat, the transcript, and everything. And they can download it themselves. Like if they want to make a customized video with it, they can download. If I give them access, they can download it themselves and do whatever they want. And then the last piece I think that's super important, Erica, is that you can record multiple views. You can record the active speaker view, which might have me on it now because I'm blah, blah, blahing right now, right? And you can get the gallery view. And then they have a third view, which is the slide view. So if you had the wherewithal and you had a video editor, you could send it to them and you could actually re-edit it. So like, let's say we had a big crowd, I told a joke, you can actually flip to the gallery and see them laugh, right? Or if I did an initiative with them, right? Get everyone to like mirror me, right? So everyone, do jazz hands, right? Let's do some applause. You can actually, right, cut to the audience and you can see all, 49 of them doing that. And so that's what I've found inside of there is by recording all these views, you don't miss those moments. And if you do take the time to recut it back as something, even more engaging to watch later, then you can actually cut views and get what you want.
I haven't got into editing yet. Right now, me and you right here live, I've been switching back and forth between speaker view and guests.
Yeah.
So, and by live streaming, I'm supposed to be live streaming to 12 platforms. It's usually a recording in all those places. But like right now, we're only on YouTube. Yeah. I'm also recording and YouTube will also have it. I can either download it from YouTube or I can download it from Zoom and I will put it into Ice Drive. So I will have it later.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Restream and I do the same. I'm up to like 22 locations on Restream. And I feel that in live streaming, because it does take so much energy. Like once you start editing, I don't know if you're like me, Erica, but you start getting into it, and then like you spend 5 hours editing a 1 hour, video. It's like, do I really want to do that? In the end, like these interviews, you really just wanted to get out. So there's a lot of value in producing on the fly. There's a lot of value in live, right? There's live gets seen more most likely than a regular post of a video. And then you don't edit. It's like it's done, right? When we end this video, it's there. You want to watch the recording, it's there. So I still think that live streaming has a lot of value and that I do the same things as you. I look for what's some different ways that I can produce when live streaming. Here's one of my tips now is I'll do something like present the slide window. So like here's a slide, right? I'll show it in my window. And the reason why for that is because if you share screen in Zoom, it takes the whole screen and then your video is as small as this thing, right? Yeah. And so I'd rather see it in that 50-50 view. So to me, the only way in live streaming to do it is to use one of the video windows. If I'm not using mine, is to run the slides in it.
So is Zoom your favorite platform?
Yeah, after evaluating all the platforms, and I spend significant time on, Zoom, Teams, Remo, I spent some time on WebEx, even Amazon's Chime, right, and a few of the others. Those are some of the biggest leaders inside of there. I still think that my personal evaluation is that Zoom is the best, and I still think it's for this number one reason. Number one is that Zoom does the best job of degrading, meaning that if my internet signal for some reason gets cut, it will start to freeze my video, but you hear my voice. So that you can still going on, right? You can still understand what's going on. And then when it goes down and it starts to get your voice, it'll try and elongate and catch up, before it dies. Other platforms don't do such a good job, meaning that they cut the voice, right? Beforehand, so that you don't have no idea what's going on. And then in addition to that, Zoom, even if it crashes, and I've had it crash on me, keeps the meeting together. Even if I'm the host, it will keep everybody on, right? I'll reboot. Right, you'll come back in, and maybe within a minute, I can come back and rejoin the meeting. Other platforms have kicked everybody off, right?
Yeah,
you just like the whole party blew up, right? And then everybody has to spend time reconnecting, and it's very disorienting, and so forth and so on. And I've actually ran Zoom for a 25.5-hour meeting.
Wow.
So yeah, I got paid. Somebody was trying to do a 24-hour meeting. We made it to 25.5, and during that time, Zoom kept together. So, that to me is its number one quality is that over time, it does a really good job. Most other platforms, either you got to reboot, right, or refresh, or that you might have to log out and log in to solve problems. Not to say that Zoom isn't without its own problems, but I'm saying it's less common to me in Zoom than almost any other platform.
I really like Zoom, but I'm thinking about trying out AirMeet for my show. Just just to have a different setup, a different look, maybe a different feel about it. And
Yep.
I can hook up my live stream with it also. I just use Zoom because I'm used to it. I'm comfortable with it.
What I found is like we were trying to do higher end production and we could have had people log directly into Restream, in their studio. Like it's like StreamYard, you can bring people in and out. And in the end, we decided against it, even though the production might be better. We went against it because like we had 22 speakers. And all the 22 speakers are used to Zoom now. So this is like Betamax versus VHS, right? VHS won even though it was not a superior format because everybody knew it and that you could use it. And I think that Zoom is now this way, which is like Zoom for the most part, almost everybody at least knows how to get on.
Yeah.
And that way you can avoid technical problems about people getting onto your new platform. I know that every time I join it, I don't know if you've had this problem, Erica, where you join another platform and it chooses a different camera and a different mic.
Yeah.
And then you got to sit there for like 10 minutes going, how do I, on this platform, how do I switch all my stuff, right, to get it on? As opposed to like, again, on Zoom, there's some value for that consistency. It's a little bit like your car though, right, Erica, which is like you put the key in, you want to turn the key and drive somewhere, right? Zoom has gotten to that stage for a lot of people, even people who, again, don't have a lot of technical wherewithal. And I think there's some value in that.
Yeah. I mean, with the Betamax and the VHS, I have wondered, did VHS have the better marketing?
It's possible. They got more partners. I mean, that was also a win, right? So like in computer programming, if you have partners that you can flood the market with enough product. And then in the end too, the quality pieces sometimes don't care, right? So let's say like I think AirMeet and some others, like it depends, they will now broadcast in possibly like 4K. Right. So there's a quality issue that you could get out of that. Now, again, if people don't notice, most people can't notice between 1080, right, which is like another version of HD versus 4K, then you don't know. But if you are doing something that does matter, right,
Yeah.
then it's worth the bet. So my brother, by the way, I'll give a shout out to my brother, Chen, who I was telling you I was emailing before. He's a Laserdisc fan. Remember Laserdisc?
Yeah, you just took it way
Right.
back.
It's a big shiny disc, like the size of an LP, but it was silver, right? It was shiny because it was all the ones and zeros were cut around in a circle, and you could put it into a player, and it had higher quality. But it didn't beat out VHS because it was still cost more, and the quality was not enough for people to care.
Yeah. It's like, wow. It makes up me also think of web TV. Do you remember web TV?
Web TV.
It was a good long while ago.
I don't know. Now tell me. I'm not sure.
Longer than 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
you know how we watch the internet on TV?
Yeah.
That's what it was like back in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's like, but maybe people weren't ready for it. Maybe their marketing needed some work. So I'm always wondering if it's the quality or if it's the marketing, because Robert Kiyosaki says that you're not known as what is it? New York Times bestseller is not the bestseller. It's not called the best writer. It's called the bestseller. So the marketing matters.
Your marketing matters, and I think that's where live streaming I think can really help. Like again, entrepreneurs, because you and me now have the power of a television station,
Woohoo!
right? And so I think that's really an important piece, and that's what I'm sharing with my clients. Like I'm helping to live stream events. Hopefully, you'll be excited to know I was able to stream here in Seattle. There's an organization called Black-Owned Business Excellence, and they ran an 8-hour live stream of their symposium. It was like education all day long. Exciting. They had the first black engineer at Hewlett Packard, the Clay family, right? and really got a chance to tell a story where, February was Black History Month, and be able to share that, but have the ability to send it to thousands of people, right, on a budget that doesn't cost what it would cost if you were in a television studio. So I think those are things also that's really, really important. Something else I'm really proud and excited about. Last year, we got a grant through one of my friends, Angela Castaneda, and we were able to train 12 BIPOC, right, Black, Indigenous, people of color, virtual producers. And those 12 producers, 9 of them I took with me to that virtual conference that I told you about, the international conference, the Training Magazine one. That was great. So like the whole crew, right, a good percentage of the crew was BIPOC. And now the best part too is many of those people are running virtual meetings in their communities that are this level. And that to me, again, I'm just proud about it. It's like having that seat at the table, not only having a seat at the table, but having a seat at the broadcast table. So you have the chance to amplify these voices. That's something that's also very important to me.
I like that. It seems like you've gotten into long form streaming. So is that, I know you said it's a part of your business, but how long ago was it added to your business?
It was like April of 2020 when Microsoft said that first conference. And actually that's what I identified too. This is a great piece to know that I still have the 25 years of meeting experience to lean on, is that conferences turn out to be one of the best, revenue pieces. And the reason why is because, one, there's a huge group of people, so there's a bigger budget, and there's more at stake. And you know that if you're the producer too and you don't know these things, how nerve-wracking it is, right? And how embarrassing it is when you get it wrong in front of 500 of your industry peers. All right, so now I'm going to share my screen. Oops, I shared the wrong screen. Right, you don't want to do that while you have all these people online. So that's when I discovered it, and I've gotten better at it. And that's why, again, in my setup here with multiple screens, that I'm able to do things that I think other people are not able to do, which is keep track of more stuff, show more things, switch quickly beyond a bunch of different stuff. And, part of it is technology, and the other half of it then is experience, like saying, what are the different ways that I have available to solve these challenges? And I think that's funny, too, that the one thing I feel like I'm selling, Erica, is smoothness.
Yeah.
And what I mean by smoothness is like, people will come back at that production and say, thank you so much. That virtual meeting was amazing, right? It was smooth. Even if there was a mistake, that we find ways to quickly cruise over it. The audience will have a little bit of forgiveness for it if you take care of it immediately. But if you ignore it and just like leave a problem, like somebody's staticky mic on for more than 2 minutes, it ruins the whole experience. And so again, we do everything possible to fix those things, especially before we get on. And that's what I've seen as the best of business.
Yeah. I had someone with a low mic, and the chat was just yelling at me, tell her to turn up her mic. I'm like, excuse me, everyone. Could you turn up your mic? We can hear you. They can't hear you. Oh, yeah.
AV checks, right? Yeah, no, AV checks I think are the most important thing. Even on the day of, like sometimes I get to hire an assistant producer and their job is just to do the final check. They'll come in, greet a speaker, pull them to a breakout room if we're presenting in the main room, test their audio, visual, and their mic, and then fix anything that's necessary to let them know that they're ready, so that when I put them on the main stage, the odds are that everything's going to work, right? It goes to the value of what we do. I think I tell a lot of people the value of what we do is rehearsals, right?
I can believe that.
It used to be a yellow flag to not have a rehearsal. I've moved it all the way up to a red flag. If we miss a rehearsal with a group, the odds of something going wrong during that session go up astronomically. And what we saw in this last conference, which I thought was great too, a lot of the times while we still did the technical part, especially if it was a panel, that was most likely the first time that those 2 to 4 people had actually talked. And so that they were actually mapping out a plan amongst them. And by just doing that, it meant that when they got on stage, they were way more cohesive. They were way more on the same page. The speakers were not blindsided by questions the panelist was going to ask, or that the moderator was going to ask. And I think that's another value in the rehearsals that people forget about.
I like that. So are your rehearsals part of the onboarding, or is it just another time before the event?
I make it a part of the default package, right? So when I go and calculate a conference or something I'm going to produce, I ask how many speakers there are. So there's like, here's the time of the conference, right? And then you have a number of speakers. It's usually like, we can probably get it done in a half hour per session. So we've got to get everybody on, right? Figure out what it is. I tell them too, this is the number one thing that speakers violate all the time. Log in exactly how you're going to log in for the conference. And then I get people in their car, right? I get people in like traveling, they're in the airport. And I'm like, is this where you're calling in from? They're like, no. I'm like, right? It's like, tell me where you're calling. Call in exactly, because I need to see their background. I got to hear their mic. I got to see what internet they have. And now we got to do it all over again.
Yeah.
We got to do it over again.
Like if you don't already have a course on how to onboard your speakers and do a check, you should definitely do that, or at very least another ebook. Yeah,
I'll do that. I'll definitely do that. Yeah, things to do. Yeah, things to prepare for a conference. You know, if you have a high stakes, right? Like maybe like long format or whatever it is. If you have a high stakes presentation, here's the checklist. Yeah.
I like that. So I would definitely look for that, because that's a good point. Finding your team, working with your team, and then working with your clients on onboarding and sound checks. And I also like your use of breakout rooms. Like you're really getting the most out of Zoom with the transcripts, the chats, and using those breakout rooms for audio checks.
Oh, Erica, I got to share this one too, right? We had a group that was burned out on Zoom too. So you're probably starting to hear that, right? I got Zoom, I got Zoom fatigue, I got Zoom burnout. So we took one of these, and they were looking at another platform to solve the problem. But I said, why don't you give me a shot at it with Zoom? But let me just show you and use Zoom in a way that's not like Zoom. And they're like, huh? Okay, let's do that. So basically, I showed them, and I built a hotel.
Ooh.
Every breakout room had a different name, right? It had the bar, the beach, right? The 3 breakout room names, that were actually themed around their conference. The hallway. There was actually a room called the hallway, right? Like in some conferences, all the best stuff happens in the hallway.
Yeah.
So we did that, and we opened it. As soon as you logged in, all the rooms were open. And then we gave everyone the ability to jump. And so now this group always had any time had the ability to move wherever they want. So if you and I said, Erica, hey, meet me in the hallway. So you and I could just move to the hallway despite the keynote going on, right? And just you and I just talk. And some people did it, right? It was great with that part, that either they went to breakout rooms or they had conversations, individually with somebody they wanted to. We gave them control over the whole time of like what you want to do. They could jump breakout rooms. So again, we had the main room always had something. Then there were like 3 breakout rooms. And so we saw people like jumping, going, this breakout's not what I thought. Move, right? And they came back blown away. They said, you think you know Zoom? You didn't know Zoom until you attended this conference.
Yeah, I can believe that. I'm thinking, is that done with a dashboard?
No, it's just you can do it in standard Zoom. You just check a box that happened like about a year ago. They opened up something that says, let people choose the breakout room instead of you have to. Right? So now people have the ability to jump, and so now you can empower them. The other trick before that was really fun too, to meet all these other people who are doing Zoom. You needed to co-host everybody.
Oh.
Which is really risky. If you co-host somebody, you give them a lot of abilities.
Yeah.
You have to really trust everybody. But people were doing it and saying, if you co-host everybody, now everybody can jump.
Oh.
And so Zoom took a note of that, and they said, we're just going to make it official.
That's nice.
Yeah, and that's the other reason why Zoom is a leader now too. They are moving faster than almost anybody else. Even my friends at Microsoft, who I did talk to, and they know they're behind, and every day they're trying to figure out how to catch up to Zoom.
Well, Apple's behind a lot, but they don't care. And their followers, they don't know. And so they don't care.
And that's a great example, right, of branding too. Like Apple does such a good job of branding, and that experience, the user experience. Most people don't care because they don't know about all these other features. So again, you want the core of what Apple does to work, which is I want to start my computer and I want to do some stuff. And all these other features are like off to the side. And Apple takes a really good job of taking care of this, better than a PC because they control everything. They have the operating system, they have the computer, and they know what's happening there. And so therefore they can make a better experience.
They're starting to put Windows on Apple. Like
I saw that. The new M1, M2 chip allows you to do those things. And sometimes as fast as, or sometimes faster than a normal PC. Pretty impressive.
I was thinking, would that defeat the purpose of having an Apple if you just do that? But no.
Maybe it depends what apps you want. Like sometimes there's an app that's only on PC and now it's available on an Apple, and so now you can be an Apple fan. It's the same thing like Beta VHS though. Some people are really passionate about each one. Doesn't matter why, the logical reasons for it is like I'm here, I'm in the Apple camp or I'm in the PC camp. So
from elementary to college, it was all Apple. I loved it because that's all I knew. And I thought that was part of their marketing. When I got out of college, I bought one and then it stopped working. So I bought another one. It stopped working. And they both stopped working within a week after the, what was it called? The plan you get when something
Apple
happens.
Care.
Yeah. They both stopped working within that week. So, and they wouldn't help me. So my takeaway from that was don't buy any more. So 2 was my limit. So now I've been rolling with Lenovo IBM for a while, and it's worked way past that warranty.
I'm a fan of Lenovo when it used to be like ThinkPad, I think was its brand when it was IBM. And I feel like they're the Cadillac of laptops because I've had other types of brands of laptops and they'll fall apart, right? But a Lenovo, for the most part, was built really well. I actually have some like 8-year-old Lenovos that I use like as Zoom like side computers. They just record virtual aspects, so they're still in service. So yeah, for a laptop, Lenovo is pretty high on my list out of all the other brands.
Yeah, it's my favorite so far. But I gotta tell you that I host an event the first Fridays of every month for my mastermind.
Yeah.
And they all show up and they all tell me that we had a great speaker. And then they hurt my feelings. They told me that they did not know it was an event. They thought it was a regular old meeting. And then occasionally somebody would show up and teach them something. I'm like, it's not an event. What do I need to do? So I'm thinking I need to change platforms, but I have no clue. But like you said, it's probably something I'm doing. Even though they all showed up and they all said they had a great training, it did not feel like an event. Wow.
I just, what I'd love to have been telling people too, Erica, is that every virtual meeting has its own culture. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether it's like everyone talks over each other, right? Everyone's on mute, right? Whatever, cameras on, cameras off. Those are all cultural things. So I don't know, maybe, you should spend a whole session, Erica, with them and ask them, what do you think the culture is of this meeting? What do you want this culture of this meeting to be going forward? And maybe they'll just tell you. And then you just respond to them and say, next week's meetings, it will be exactly that. And then they'll all be happy, right? Because, in the end, I think a lot of engagement, too, is just being heard, right? And they're actually having someone respond to that. That's what I've done on the technical team, which is like every day we made something better in the virtual experience. Whether we increase the resolution of the quality, we fixed blurry slides, we fixed audio, we fixed camera angles. And, and by day 5, right, they're really... everything is all together in one place, but it mainly came off of their feedback. The virtual audience, just like what you said, her mic is low and the chat blows up. You get 100, your mic is low. If you fix those things immediately, I think that your audience will always respond. The fact that you have your audience show up already is something you just want to go to the next stage, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's almost 11, so I want to share my screen and show everyone what you are offering them. So if you guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, hooray. So this is what Jonh is offering us, Engaging Virtual Meetings. This is his ebook we were talking about earlier. Let me, I can't get out. Well, this is it right here. You go to that link that's in the, below this video, and you will be able to get his book.
So these things are all here. Most of them are classes. They're free 1-hour classes. I teach one class a month, Erica. One of them is Engaging Virtual Meetings. I teach 6 things that are the core about engaging virtual meetings. The other one is, you'll love this class, Erica. It's called Turn on the Damn Camera, right? And it's actually a class that's not about that. It's actually a class on creating virtual psychological safety so that people will want to turn on their camera, not you yelling at them, telling them to turn on their camera. I also have a conference, Erica, which I hope that you'll be at, October 18th through the 22nd. I have a free ticket and then there's a paid ticket. So either one is totally fine by me. But we'll have 9 of the top speakers in the world. And this year's theme is the new norm. What is the new norm here on virtual? and we'll show you, 9 different speakers version of what engaging is. I also do a happy hour every Friday, 5 o'clock, and karaoke at 7 o'clock on Saturday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is free, and that's another part, Erica, we're just talking about. We have singers from all over the world, the Philippines, New Zealand, right, America, and we come together and we all just sing songs on karaoke. We've been doing it since March of 2020. So
that sounds amazing. And you do it in Zoom.
And we do it all in Zoom. We do it all here in Zoom.
That's great. Jonh, tell everyone, what's your favorite social hangout, and if that's the place you want them to connect with you?
Yeah, you can hit me up on Facebook of all places, facebook.com/CEO Jonh Chen, and LinkedIn, of course, too, linkedin.com/IN/CEO Jonh Chen. Yeah, hit me up there, and we'd love to, meet you there and find out what you're doing. Let's see if I can put them all up here. There we go. Yeah, so hang out here, and would love to hear from you. Anybody who has a virtual challenge they want to talk over. I even helped somebody else with their camera recently, right? So they got a new camera. I helped them hook it up. So all those things, I'm here to help you and be a resource in your community. Thanks, Erica.
Hooray. Thank you, Jonh. I appreciate you being here, sharing your time, knowledge, great stories, by the way, with us.
My pleasure, Erica. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep the talk virtual.
All right.